3 ghost stories. Incredible timing or paranormal? This was today me and my friend 15-year-olds. We're outside driving our mopeds around midnight. And we were just cruising and decided to ride our bikes up a road where you're supposed to drive cycles and after a couple of minutes, we get to this little outside gym made out of wood. So we stop and park up beside it. Currently the time was around 1 o'clock and we were just talking and screwing around. After some time some weird stuff began to happen. I heard some weird noise by the side of the road. It was probably the wind or something. But after that my buddy started messing around, asking if there was anything paranormal around and downloaded an EMF on his phone. And was just joking around. Then I asked, is there anything paranormal here that wants to talk to us, make a sound? And for seconds later a terrifying dark scream comes from the forest. That lasted like 1 second. This scream was like 300 meters away, very close. Almost felt like it was looking at us. We looked each other and straight up jumped on our bikes full gas straight out of there. I've almost never been so surprised and scared in my life. Was it an meal with incredible timing, or the paranormal? We're going to go back to that place tomorrow and try to get evidence. What is this damn presence? I've had occasional sleep paralysis, so I know a lot in that regard. But for the past year and a half my experiences have shifted. I started getting episodes much more often. Despite there being no significant factors that would affect it, sleep routine is fine. Stress levels are good. Diet is the same. It shifted from visual hallucinations to feeling something touching, caressing, pulling me while my entire body is tingling. I'm a natural skeptic, but I do believe in spirits and entities from various realms, both good and bad, that are invisible to us. Its presence doesn't feel scary, definitely uncomfortable. And when I've tried not resisting to see what would happen, the pulling gets stronger and more intense, before eventually fading out on its own, and I'm able to move again. During an episode last night, while my eyes were shut, I saw a face that vaguely resembled a man and I looking back at me, so I do wonder if it could be connected to my so-called sleep paralysis demon. Reminded me of when I was 11 and slipped and hit the back of my head so hard I fainted. All I remember is seeing a similar eye just staring at me, blinking and all. That was before I knew or was into any of that stuff. I don't know, these are just rambles of my experiences. Has anyone else had something similar occur to them? My grandma's house. My story isn't as impressive as other people's experiences on here, but I thought I'd share it all the same. My grandparents have been world travelers since they were young. Once their kids, my dad and my uncle, left the nest, they were off and explore everywhere they could possibly go. They ended up in Africa multitude of times and brought back tons of souvenirs. Over the course of a couple decades, to preface, they live in a huge house in the middle of what feels like nowhere. Really. It's in the middle of the woods and there's not a whole lot of neighbors beside them. I've been visiting them since I was a little kid and their house hasn't changed a whole lot, even after 10 or so years of heading there nearly every summer. The whole place is basically filled to the brim with long hallways and small rooms with tons of antique furniture and creepy pictures of kids from families don't even think we know. It's like a bunch of stock photos or small family portraits. Anyways, there was this one room on the downstairs floor that we called the angel room because the walls were brimming with pictures of Cupid-like angels and a light pink bed frame dresser. I was forced to sleep in that particular room. Every single time we stayed there, lemme just say, it was creepy as shit. I felt so uncomfortable in there because there were no lights at all. Besides the few night lights strung around the hallways, it was hell for a little kid because even prior to this, in my own home, I felt watched. Now it was amplified tenfold, and whatever was in there had eyes on the back of my head, no matter where I moved. Eventually I forced my mom to sleep in there with me and she felt the exact same way. The shadows in that place were more horrifying than the forest outside sometimes. Eventually, after a ton of my family members complained about feeling the same way, my grandma sold the bed frame and most of the stuff in the room to one of my other relatives on my mom's side. When she did, she literally told me she picked it up at a garage sale nearly 2 decades ago, so who knows what attached itself to that thing while she was in the process of selling it. We stayed upstairs instead, however. This was where all of the antiques were. Like Every little souvenir from Africa they had was in their office upstairs alongside a ton of the other antiques they had in storage. I slept in their office on a pull-out couch, and guess what? I didn't sleep because I felt a ton of eyes on me again. I stayed in there still, of course, because I'm a good granddaughter, but oh my gods, that sucked. As I'm typing this, we're actually headed back home after visiting them again this summer, and I had to sleep downstairs again. They moved the office I slept in before back downstairs and into the angel room, which I feel like amplified the energy of that shit tenfold. I slept in the room next door and I heard knocking on my windows. A few nights ago, it wasn't just me either. It was consistent knocking, and it was just loud enough for my parents to hear it in the room across from me. However, for me, I'm pretty sure it was coming directly from my window. The whole time I slept in that room too, I felt like people were watching me, so I did what I usually do and just ignore it or make a ruckus and hopefully scare them away. With how annoyed I was by the pillows I had to sleep on. Overall, that house is either haunted of or my entire family is going insane. Maybe don't answer that question now.